But in March 1965, 600 people led by Martin Luther King Jr. set out from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama in a nonviolent march for voting rights. State troopers attacked the protesters, but the violence galvanized activists, and a few weeks later, President Lyndon Johnson introduced the Voting Rights Act, guaranteeing the right to vote, regardless of race or ethnicity.
And later, some 25,000 people successfully completed the march from Selma to the steps of the Capitol in Montgomery. Filmmaker Ava DuVernay interprets those events in her movie Selma, which won this year's Academy Award for Best Song. And VOA's Penelope Poulou has the story.
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union.
How many county judges in Alabama?
67.
Name them.
The docudrama Selma opens at the registrar's office in Selma, Alabama, where civil rights activist Annie Lee Cooper is trying in vain to register to vote. From that moment on, the film takes the audience on a roller coaster ride through the events that led up to the Selma marches in March 1965.
You march those people into rural Alabama, unprotected, it's gonna be open season.
And propose new legislation.
Selma, by filmmaker Ava DuVernay, also interprets a complex relationship between American President Lyndon Johnson and the leader of the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
We must stand up. We must make a massive demonstration of our moral certainty.
Ava DuVernay's interpretation of a reluctant President Johnson has drawn criticism by Johnson loyalists.
Cannot wait. You got one big issue, I got 101.
But the filmmaker says the story is about much more than just Lyndon Johnson. She says it's a celebration of people who did something amazing, and it was a big challenge for the actors.
As long as I am unable to exercise my constitutional right to vote, I do not have command of my own life. I cannot determine my own destiny, for it is determined for me by people who would rather see me suffer than succeed.
David Oyelowo interprets Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
You can't play an icon, you can't play a historical figure, you can play a man, and that I know how to do. I'm a father of four myself, I'm a Christian myself. You know, these were the things I shared with Dr. King that I held on to, and then I felt I had to open myself up to that and hope that the spirit that flowed through him flows through me for the purpose of the film, and I felt that doing this movie.
To be on that bridge and to actually stand where the real people stood, where the real people bled, where the real people cried, where the real people marched and laughed together and held hands, like that, you know, is in the DNA of the place.
And while the filmmaker of Selma did not know while filming the events that would spark civil unrest in Ferguson, Missouri last August, it is impossible to sit through 2 hours of Selma's depiction of the events 50 years ago and not sense their relevance today. Penelope Poulou, VOA News, Washington.
As it turns out, Selma was nominated for Best Picture at the 2015 Academy Awards, but didn't win. But the bigger upset in many people's eyes was a lack of greater recognition for the film by the Academy.
Right, and DuVernay could have become the first African-American female director to be nominated for the Best Director Oscar, but that didn't happen. And that perceived snub ended up becoming part of a larger public outcry over the fact that no black actors were nominated either in the 4 top acting categories.